I've just been on TV talking about the bond market and pensions, etc. And it's been made clear that there is confusion over what bonds are. So I just thought I'd explain to start off with that the bond market, the bonds that are being talked about in the news, are not premium bonds. Premium bonds are something quite different. In my opinion, they shouldn't even be called bonds, but anyway, that's the name of them. Nothing to do with the bond market, nothing to do with pensions. Similarly, savings bonds are not the bonds that we're talking about. Savings bonds are basically fixed interest savings accounts where you put your money into the bank for a certain amount of time and they promise to pay you a certain amount of interest in that time. Now, real bonds, the bonds that we are talking about, the actual bond market, kind of work in a similar way in that they are promises. One side, the lender, promises to give the money for a certain amount of time. The other side, the borrower, promises to give a certain amount of interest for that time, and they shake on it. That's your bond. But actual bonds, corporate bonds, are loans to companies. And then you also have loans to government, which in this country are called gilts. So a government bond is known as a gilt. And it's essentially the same thing. You promise to lend money for a certain amount of time, and the borrower, the company or the government, promises to pay a certain amount of interest in that time. The difference here, though, is that with these loans, you can actually sell them on, which is quite handy because some of these loans go on for decades. So, you might want to sell that on at some point. And up until recently, up until the last few years, I would say, bonds, particularly gilts, have been seen as a safe, not too interesting, but fairly safe and regular income-bearing investment. And that's why a lot of pension funds have had at least some of their money invested in these. And particularly, when you get close to retirement or at retirement and you want a regular income, gilts particularly have been seen like a good bet. Not quite so much in recent years. And in fact, although I have a SIP, self-invested personal pension, and none of that has been invested in bonds ever, actually, not to my knowledge anyway. And they're not quite so popular at the moment. Gilts in particular are not quite so popular, but there is no need for panic. If you are concerned about what's in your pension, go and speak to HR. If you have a company pension, if you have a private pension, do get an actual paid financial advisor to look at it and look at all of your finances, because it's a very useful thing to do every now and then, just to make sure that you're going to be all right for the future. Do not panic, though.